The budget speech, but on an economical view, in understanding how your money works in the background frame and where exactly it builds up to and where it goes to. Because we do hear things in social media, we do hear things in the newspapers, but we don't really understand the grasp of it today. And today I have someone sitting in with me by the name of Mr. P.D. Somoza. He is a lecturer at the University of Mpumalanga under economics. So who else better to sit in with me and understand this? Welcome, Mr. Somoza. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me, Zabadi.
It is my pleasure, of course. Now, let's just jump straight into it. I think the first thing people want to know, or just in general, what is economics? Because we hear all of this terminology. We hear macro, microeconomics, then we hear the goods and services, all this monetary value. And I think a lot of the times people find economics difficult to process and understand, and we don't give it the time and day that it really deserves, because we don't really understand if it's a method or a doctrine or a technique or an apparatus, or what exactly is this concept and idea of economics.
Thank you again, Zabadi. When we talk about economics is a social science. So if you can say you want to define economics vocabulary, you're going to find a lot of definition for economics.
Yes.
But, however, if you can check all the definitions, they are pointing into one direction.
Yes.
Economics studies the behavior of human beings or organization. So, when we define economics, let's say maybe from first year, we are defining economics as a field of study that teaches us how can we best allocate scarce resources.
Okay.
When we talk about the scarce resources, there we are talking about the factors of production, the
Yes.
inputs that we use to produce finished goods and services. I'm going to give you an example so that listeners or our viewers can understand.
Please.
Human wants are unlimited. For example, if I can ask you now, what is it that you want? One can tell you that I want to buy a Lamborghini, I want to go to USA.
Well, actually England, but
you know, however, the means to satisfy our wants is limited.
yes.
So, because of scarcity, choices has to be made. People must make choices. I can go to the government again. The government can say, I want to build 1,000 RDP houses. I want to provide a proper infrastructure.
Yes.
But the question is, do they have all the money to achieve all those goals at the same time? No, we are talking about scarcity, scarce resources. Because of scarcity, choices has to be made. And every time a choice is made, opportunity cost is incurring. Meaning that if ever you are choosing to build the RDP houses, you have to sacrifice something.
Okay, that makes sense, breaking it down like that. But now let's tie in the concept of the budget speech. How exactly do they go hand in hand, and why does it become relevant that people should actually listen to it, and why is there an announcement that is made when it comes to the budget speech? Because when you look at SONA, it makes sense. It speaks about the plans. People want to know what is the plan, but we don't have control of the money or the economy. So why is it essential that we understand how much money is coming in and how it gets maneuvered around?
Okay, thank you very much again. The budget speech is very much important for each and every citizen in South Africa, because whatever the Minister of Finance is going to talk about definitely is going to affect everyone in our country. But before I can elaborate more, let me define what is a budget speech or what is a budget.
Yes.
You know, we have got policies that our government it's using in South Africa. We have got monetary policy. I'm not going to talk much about that one
Yes.
because it is a policy that the South African Reserve Bank is using to control inflation.
Yes.
Then we have got fiscal policy. Where did we get this fiscal policy? The word fiscal, it was derived from the word fiscus. In
Okay.
fact, it was the national treasury of the ancient Rome.
Yes.
Then we derived the word fiscal, then fiscal from fiscus. Okay, now what is a fiscal policy?
Yes.
It is a policy in respect of government spending, borrowing, and taxation.
Yes.
Meaning that it is a policy document or a guideline on how our government is going to spend the money.
Okay.
The issue of borrowing. Remember, if you are saying you are going to build 100 houses, you are going to create employment, the first question that people should ask, where are you going to get the money to reach those objectives?
But I don't even think anyone has even asked that question, if we're being honest. Where do we get the money? Because when we look at the 2019 budget speech, it started off with the fact that they estimated incorrectly the tax revenue, and then from the expenditure, it was much higher, and then it was still sitting in a deficit. And yet, like you said, no one even asked, where's the money coming from and how are they going to ensure that we can get by? So where does the money come from?
Okay, then I'm going to explain how, but before I can explain that, please allow me to explain that a budget is an instrument of the fiscal policy.
Yes.
Meaning that when we talk about the budget, the main instrument of the fiscal policy
Yes.
is the budget.
Okay.
So how does the government finance its expenditure?
Yes.
The government finances its expenditure through borrowing. The government can finance its expenditure from the income that they generate from state-owned properties.
Okay.
The largest source of income for the government
Yes.
is taxation.
Okay.
You know, when I'm in class, I always tell my students that, I don't want to just talk about taxation while other people are lost. When we talk about taxation, we are talking about compulsory payments to the government.
Yes.
There we have got direct tax, we have got indirect tax. I will give you example of direct tax. Example of direct tax, there we have got personal income tax.
Yes.
We have got corporate tax, personal income tax. There we are talking about paying. You pay as you earn. Corporate tax is the tax that we are charging the companies. Then
So the payee tax is the SARS, is the one for SARS, the one when they say you need to do your tax return.
yes,
Okay.
you must pay as you earn. Remember, we have got different types of tax system as well.
Okay.
So there is progressive tax system, whereby people will just say the more you earn is the more you will pay tax. Then we have
Yes.
got proportionate. In that case, the government can just say a corporate tax, we are going to charge you 30% of the company's profit. Then lastly, we have got a regressive tax. Example of regressive tax is value added tax, whereby the poor are paying more.
This is very interesting because I think now it's making me think, what type of an economy is South Africa? From what I read, apparently it's a mixed economy because in modern times, a lot of these countries today are mixed in the sense that they have, the traditional methods that are used. They have the command methods that are used, the market methods. And in that retrospect, because you have private sectors and you have the government sectors, it's bound to get all mixed up. But in essence, for people to really understand what type of an economy are we here in South Africa? Are we that mixed economy?
Yes, South Africa is a mixed economy. When we talk about a mixed economy combines the traditional system, the command system,
Yes.
and even the market system.
Yes.
So there is areas whereby the government will just intervene. Then in other market areas, you will find out that the market forces, the forces of demand and supply, determines everything. But if you can go to the villages, you will find out that we are still reporting to, the chiefs.
Yes.
Yes.
Are those like traditional systems, just so people can also understand a little bit of what these systems are about?
Okay, the traditional system, it's like people used to do what their forefathers used to do. Meaning that if ever you are a man, you do what your fathers used to do. A woman will do what their mothers used to do.
So, for example, if your family or your grandfather was a sheep herder and then you herding sheep and then your son herds sheep and you guys are surviving on that kind of lifestyle, that's a traditional method.
Yes, and whatever they used to do, even the distribution of goods and services, it's like a successive generation. They will follow the same route that was followed by their forefathers.
Okay. And then in terms of a command system, where I read it's more of being told what to do. I feel like that's mostly what we're living in currently. We wake up because we go to this job where we have to go, and then they're telling us this is how much rates we have to pay, and then your mother said you have to go to school. So where exactly is the so-called command system?
The command system, there we have got the central authority.
Yes.
The central authority will just decide which goods and services should be produced in the country.
Yes.
And how are you going to allocate the factors of production?
Okay.
Meaning that they are telling you what is it that you can produce and what is it that you can't produce. And they even tell you that which methods of production you must use, even the distribution. Then you are taking instructions from the central authority.
That makes sense. So let's take a short break. We're going close to the half an hour of 5 o'clock. And when we come back, of course, we're discussing the budget speech on an economic scale to understand the background concept. We broke down what is an economy, what is economics, but we want to get to the nitty gritty of it when it comes to the issues of, number one, debt in this country, such as state-owned entities, such as the fact that they might want to increase tax to 16%, and other factors like the debt to GDP ratio is already at 60%. So we hear these numbers, we hear these terms, but we're going to have them answered for you when we come back so you can truly understand. We'll be right back.
Get people to notice your business whenever. Need assistance in planning your advertising campaign in the most innovative way? Maximize return on investment? Then Place My Ad is what you need by yours. Let our media planners help you place your advert in one of the most successful media in South Africa. We help you place adverts in the following media: radio stations, newspapers, television, billboards, and magazines. Nothing is out of our reach with Place My Ad. Contact us today at 087-943-9393 or send an email to bookings@placemyad.co.za and get people to notice your business today.
Get away to the breathtaking mountains of Badplus in Mpumalanga province. Escape to the place of peace and tranquility in our cozy hotel at Ndalo Hotel and Conferencing. The stunning views of nature all-round complement with our upmarket contemporary hotel, promising you an experience which is both intimate and inspiring. We offer hospitality solutions that fits your unique needs while maintaining your travel status and preferences with the following amenities: upmarket accommodation, well-maintained swimming pool, world-class restaurants, spa, gym facility, and conference venue. Reserve your space today for convenient, excellent accommodation by calling 017-492-0206 or send a WhatsApp text to 071-723-0539 or drop us an email at info@ndalohotel.co.za. For more information on our hotel accommodation, visit our website at www.ndalohotel.co.za. Ndalo Hotel, where personalized service and quality is a priority.
Wiggle Tunes, playing today's greatest hits. The gem starts here. You're locked down to Wiggle Tunes.
And we are right back. If you just joined us, this is Wiggle Tunes, and this is the Critical Dialogue, and it's all about discussing the current affairs. And today's topic is, of course, budget speech, economics, how it ties in hand, and answering your questions of the fundamental scale of how this economy in South Africa works and how exactly we got to this point in time. Now, earlier, we were discussing just the basic concepts of what economics is so that you could understand, because like I said, some people find it very, very difficult to understand this terminology that we're given. And now we want to hit the nitty-gritty of course, the fact that tomorrow it is the budget speech. We know that the country is suffering. We've spoken about it. We've heard about it. We've got these state-owned entities. SAA, Eskom, falling apart, in shambles, loaning money. It's utter mess. And from last, what we heard is that we currently owe 200 billion in interest of loans that we have, regardless of the loans. Now, what does it do to a country to be in? So, okay, before we even get there, are we in a lot of debt? Because it sounds like we are. And what does it do? Does it cripple a country to be in so much debt?
Thank you very much again, Zabadi. I know that you wanted to ask me about the 95 billion that South Africa borrowed from China to finance power stations.
Yes.
You know, if ever a country is in debt, it is not good for our country. Remember the government of South Africa. We have got 5 macroeconomic objectives that we want to achieve. I will just go through them one by one and put in the current statistics. The first one is the issue of economic growth.
Yes.
So on the issue of economic growth, for third quarter last year, Statistics South Africa, they reported that GDP was sitting at 0.6%.
Yes.
Then the issue of unemployment. At the moment, the unemployment rate in South Africa is sitting at a rate of 29.1%, meaning that we have got 29.1% of people who are economically active, but they are struggling to find jobs in the labor market.
Yes.
So let me not talk about inflation, because I can see now the Reserve Bank is doing a good job. After we adopted the inflation targeting framework, the target is between 3 and 6%, and as we speak now, I think CPI is sitting at is it 3.4? I'm not sure.
What is the CPI for those who actually don't understand?
Okay, when we talk about CPI, we are talking about the consumer price index.
Yes.
In other ways, the CPI measures the cost of a living basket. What we normally do, we take goods and services the way they are important in our country,
Yes.
then we put them in that basket, then we assign the weight. You can choose that I'm going to ShopRite,
Yes.
I'm going to
Any shop, Woolworths, Pick and Pay.
any shop, pardon me please. Then we check how much is the cost of this living basket.
Okay.
Let's say maybe for this year, a living basket is costing us 25 rands. Next year, we take the very same goods, then we go back
Yes.
to the shop. Then we are checking the price again.
Okay. So there's that comparison.
Then we are comparing. Another example, I can say people who are staying at Legacy, in 2005, the taxi fare from Legacy to Nelspruit Mbombela Central,
Yes.
it was less than 10 rands.
Okay.
Now, as we speak, the price, let's say maybe it's about 17 rands. The distance did not change. What
Yes.
happened there is that money lost its purchasing power. Another measure that we are using for inflation, remember we measure inflation using CPI
Yes.
and PPI.
Okay.
For CPI, what we are measuring there, like I already explained, is the cost of a living basket, which
Yes.
is caused by aggregate demand. If people are demanding more in the economy, definitely the price is going to increase.
Now, you talking about people demanding more. Clearly, we're not demanding more. Now, what becomes the reason for us not demanding more? Is it the fact that because prices are going high, we can't afford to have more? Because we always talk, a lot of people talk about the fact that prices go high, but salaries don't go high. Income doesn't go high. So is that one of the factors?
No, on the issue of prices going high,
Yes.
I think I'm going to explain that based on the PPI,
Yes.
which measures the cost of production. On CPI, what is important is that if ever people have got more money, they've got easy access to credit, obviously they are going to demand more. I'm going to give you another practical example. Let's say maybe I'm selling laptops.
Yes.
And now I'm saying, okay, I'm selling this laptop. The price per laptop is 50 cents. How many people do you think they will come running to buy that particular laptop? You can find that maybe this place is overcrowded. Others will even say, no, Mr. Samosa, since you were willing to sell this laptop at a price of 50 cents,
Yes.
I can give you 100 rand or 200, then give me these laptops.
Yes.
So if ever demand is high, provided we hold other factors constant. In economics, we say ceteris paribus. We assume that other things, they don't change.
Okay.
So if ever we are demanding more, the price will go up. Simply because sometimes you will find that maybe total production is lower than the money supply.
Yes.
However, on the same time, you were asking me yesterday about the issue of our relationship with other countries. Let's say maybe the price of oil is high. Remember, the main aim of a private company is to maximize profit.
Yes.
After production, they are putting a profit margin there. Then, if ever it is expensive for them to produce, the prices that they are going to charge will
Yes.
be higher. In that case, the law of demand states that the higher the price, the lower the quantity
Yes.
demanded. Ceteris paribus. Now I'm answering your question.
Ceteris paribus.
Yes, ceteris paribus, holding other factors constant, meaning that we assume that the only factor that change is only the price of the product.
Makes sense.
Now I'm answering your question of, since people are no longer buying, is it because of aggregate demand? No, it might be because now it is expensive to produce. Then producers are setting higher prices. People cannot forget. Or now the law of demand. The higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded.
All right. So it generally makes sense that it's not our fault. It does feel sometimes like it is our fault as customers or as consumers, because we feel like, what role are we playing in society? And I think that's also very important. What role does citizens play in the economy, whether they're a consumer, whether as a taxpayer, whether just, as an everyday citizen who's trying to get along? What essential role do they have when it comes to all of this? Because we look at it from the angle of the country in terms of what is the country doing and how's the country handling things, which direction are they moving us forward in? But what about you as an everyday individual? What role do you play?
As South African citizens, I can say at some certain stage, we are consumers and we are producers at the same time.
Yes.
I cannot blame or fully blame the government for the crisis that our country is in now.
Yes.
I will give you an example. Let's say the fees must fall,
Yes.
whereby students are demanding that the fees must fall, and the government says, okay, it's fine, we are going to provide you with a free education.
Yes.
Now we are going back. How are you going to finance that free education? You are providing students with free education,
Yes.
but the question is, from which source of income? Now the government will come back and say, we are going to increase the tax rate pay. We are increasing value added tax.
Yes.
Or they can even say, we are increasing the petrol price by 50 cents. That 50 cents
Yes.
will finance the free education at a tertiary level. But now, the question is, your question was, which role are we playing?
Yes.
Can you see that whatever we are demanding from the government, they can just agree, however, is going to come back to us.
But that's the thing. We don't know how it's going to come back to us. We just know that every day there's this situation, or we're dealing with this circumstance, and this is what we'd like. So one thing we do know is that we don't need fuel prices to go higher. We're struggling as is. Transportation, public or private, is a difficulty for a lot of individuals, where people started, doing mass movements of carpooling. Individuals all use one vehicle and go to school or wherever they need to go to work. People started using public transport more often. But now, like you said, when it comes back in reverse, because they're finding alternative measures to raise, funds to accommodate that, how are we supposed to know this?
I think that one, it's a difficult one, but you must just do the cost and benefit analysis.
Yes.
The cost and benefit analysis. Okay, if ever we are going to implement this particular policy, how will it benefit our economy?
Yes.
And at the same time, the question is, at what cost? Remember, you also mentioned about the issue of government debt.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I did not go in details there. When we talk about the government, if ever government officials, they are the ones who is responsible for the funds that we borrowed from another country.
Yes.
Do you think they're gonna look out for those investments as if they are the shareholders? Even if we are failing, for me, I prefer that. We have seen that Eskom have failed. We borrowed 95 billion from China to finance to build the power station.
Yes.
Then it did not work. The SAA, they need a rescue plan as well.
Yeah.
Why can't we just privatize them?
The one question everybody has on their minds. But from an economics point of view, rather than the debate of privatization or nationalization or whatever so be, understanding the dynamics and the concept of what those two are and the role that it plays into society. So I think it's best rather, can we list like the pros and the cons of each for people to understand what exactly is it when we look at privatization and nationalization, rather than, hey, let's just do this, I think it's a good plan.
Okay, let me start by explaining what we mean by nationalization and privatization.
Yes.
When we talk about nationalization, we are talking about the transfer of ownership
Okay.
from private entities to state-owned entities with or without compensation.
Okay.
Meaning that we are transferring ownership from private individuals, then those entities, they will be owned by the state.
Okay.
Then for privatization, it's vice versa. We are transferring state-owned entities
Yes.
to private entities. But I always tell people that, especially those who are saying, let us go with nationalization.
Yes.
Nationalization was part of the ANC economic policy
Yes.
during the 1990s.
Okay.
However, they abandoned that policy partly as a reason, partly because nationalization failed in the Eastern European countries.
So it just doesn't work. But then why are we holding on to it?
No, we can't just say it can't work. It depends on the state of the nation.
Oh, okay.
Because now, if you can check, even the issue of the money that we borrowed from other countries,
Yes.
the question is, are we monitoring everything about that money? The problem in South Africa is that you can borrow money only to find out that that money is not going to perform the task that the money was supposed to do. The issue of corruption,
Yes.
the issue of nepotism, the issue of incompetency
Yes.
in our government. So that's the problem. I think South Africa, if ever we can fight corruption, make sure that we put people who are capable of leading this country ahead. In that case, everything can go well.
And we keep hearing that. We heard that in the SONA debates where they said, you know what, at this point in time, as much as we have these great plans and ideas coming through, if we don't have the right candidates handling it, then what is the point of even having this concept? Which comes to the concept of sovereign fund. A lot of people want to know, what is this so-called sovereign fund? What does it do? Because this is what we heard, or at least what was addressed at the State of the Nation, was that they want to introduce this, and that resources and mineral minister said that the funds will come from mining profits of the country, and they're going to keep it in there. But what exactly is a sovereign fund? It sounds fancy, great terminology, but break it down in layman terms for us.
Okay, when we talk about, let me start by saying we have got the sovereign wealth funds.
Yes.
When we talk about the sovereign wealth funds, that one is a government investment fund.
Yes.
The government will just invest the funds for future generations,
Yes.
or to stabilize our economy. I know that many people, if we can start talking about a government investing for future generation,
Yes.
we know what happened to the VBS,
Okay.
whereby money for pensioners just disappeared. If ever you are going to invest for the future, you must make sure that we are not complaining about the issues such as state capture, the issue of corruption.
Yes.
In that case, it can work. It is a good investment for the economy, especially for our future generations. While we are still on the sovereign funds, remember there is a sovereign fund and we also have a sovereign debt.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So this is not just a little mini saving bank account.
No, there is a sovereign fund. In that case, the government is investing for future generations or for infrastructure so that we can stabilize our economy.
So it's not for now.
No. Remember,
okay.
investment, you can't invest today. It must be a plan that we are investing so that we can grow our economy.
Okay, like how long are we talking though? Because I'm like, realistically speaking, what if I'm not around tomorrow?
That's why we are saying for the sovereign funds, we are investing for the future generations.
Okay.
Then we have got the sovereign debt. In that case, the government will just go to foreign countries,
Yes.
and borrow money.
What is with this borrowing?
Why do they borrow money? They can
Yes.
borrow money with the view that they want to improve our economic growth. But if you are going to engage into a sovereign debt, you must make sure that you are corrupt free.
Yes.
Then you have got leaders with capabilities. There is no state capture.
Yeah.
Then we are not talking about the issue of nepotism. Even you know what is happening in politics.
Yes.
Other people will even argue that you comrades, after they took power, even if you are not qualified, they will just take you and give you a higher office just to return the favor.
So in other words, we're not getting the sovereign debt, and that's the reason why it was not even mentioned.
Already the sovereign debt is there. We are talking about the 95 billion that we borrowed from China.
Yes.
Another word for sovereign debt, others call it national debt, you can call it public debt, or you can call it government debt. We are talking about the same thing.
Oh, okay. That makes it much more clearer, because we, like we said, we hear these terminologies, but we don't really understand the concept of what it really is. But I think let's take a short break, and when we come back, we also want to know our expectations for tomorrow, idealistically the way forward of tomorrow, and of course how exactly the country should move forward in terms of saving ourselves and ensuring that we, like you said, we care for the future, we preserve the future, and we've got concepts and plans for people to have a sustainable life. We'll be right back.
The gem starts here. You're locked down to Wiggle Tunes.
Get away to the breathtaking mountains of Badplus in Mpumalanga province. Escape to the place of peace and tranquility in our cozy hotel at Ndalo Hotel and Conferencing. The stunning views of nature all-round complement with our upmarket contemporary hotel, promising you an experience which is both intimate and inspiring. We offer hospitality solutions that fits your unique needs while maintaining your travel status and preferences with the following amenities: upmarket accommodation, well-maintained swimming pool, world-class restaurants, spa, gym facility, and conference venue. Reserve your space today for convenient, excellent accommodation by calling 017-492-0206 or send a WhatsApp text to 071-723-0539 or drop us an email at info@ndalohotel.co.za. For more information on our hotel accommodation, visit our website at www.ndalohotel.co.za. Ndalo Hotel, where personalized service and quality is a priority.
And that brings us 10 minutes to 6. We're about to wrap it up. If you just joined us, absolute shame, because we're learning all about the economy here in South Africa, and because so many things have happened, from ANC 8th statement to the State of the Nation address to the State of Nation debate, and all 9, of course, State of the Province addresses that have been made today. Of course, Gauteng and Mpumalanga that was addressed out there. And tomorrow, the South African budget speech for 2020. What are our expectations? What are our goals? What are our views? And of course, what are our opinions? We are on our social media platforms. I see you guys commenting, of course. I see you guys are very, very excited in terms of what's going to come out tomorrow, and that you guys are glad that you actually have an understanding about these concepts that we have been throwing around about privatization, of course, and nationalizing and all of that. But we have other social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all available for you. 066-057-6802 is that number where you can, of course, text us. And if some of you are streaming, make your life more convenient and download us on the Google App Store or iOS. But back to economics and, of course, the budget speech for 2020. Debt seems to be a very, very high point out here that we're discussing, Mr. Samosa. And I just would like to understand in terms of what is the best way forward economically to salvage ourselves in I mean, you spoke about the sovereign debt, and you're speaking about the fact that, we might raise these taxes, but there was something else that came out by the terminology called transition levy. It said it was last implemented in 1995 as a sort of a once-off payment, and it just sounds like we're finding all of these tactics, maneuvers, and techniques in servicing us to make sure that they can compensate for their downfalls and their failures. Because, like I mentioned, the last we heard of it, it's 200 billion interest alone on all of these loans that we have taken out. And this number is higher than the budget for health, the budget for education, and a lot more other budgets. So it's very, very scary for us to hear these kind of things. And then out here, you're throwing around the fact that, you know what, like we see, these state-owned entities are in shambles. They just sound like they need more money. So idealistically, how should a country assist in ensuring that the debt can decrease rapidly? Can it decrease rapidly? Do we have these resources? Because we did speak about foreign and of course domestic relationships. Do we have the resources to do this trading and exchange? And because even as well, we saw an article that the rand weakened, so it does come across as though we are very, very fragile, we are very, very weak, and we are very, very unstable as a country. How do we grasp all of this? Like, how do you ensure that, you know what, we shouldn't feel as scared, as scary as this sounds?
Okay, thank you again, Zabadi. Let me start by expressing my expectations from tomorrow, the budget speech from the Minister of Finance.
Yeah.
As things stand, we know that our economic activities, total production in the economy is very much low. The unemployment is very much high, and from economical point of perspective, if ever the economy is experiencing low productivity, what we were supposed to do, we were supposed to apply expansionary, either monetary or fiscal policy.
Yes.
In that case, the minister was supposed to either reduce the tax rate, decrease the tax rate, or increase government spending.
Yes.
But you mentioned that now it's like we are experiencing a large amount of public debt.
Yes.
Meaning that the government need money. They cannot
Can't do anything.
no, they can't just lower the tax rate.
Yes.
Remember I mentioned that we have got three sources of income for the government.
Yes.
The largest being taxation.
Yes.
We are taxing the companies, we are taxing people in the form of personal income tax. Now let us do away with the issue of borrowing, because the president during the State of the Nation address, it's like he said they are not going to borrow funds.
Yes.
Meaning that what we are left with, either we are going to increase the corporate tax or company tax.
Yes.
Something which if we can do, remember we are still trying to attract foreign direct investment. We want to attract foreign investors so that they can come and invest in our country.
Yes.
However, if you can increase the corporate tax, they're gonna run away.
And it's even funny that you're saying that, because it showed recently that only it was 46% of corporate tax that wasn't even collected. That's almost half. So
you see?
Terrible idea, just terrible.
So now, if we can increase the corporate tax, we know that these people, when they invest in our country,
Yes.
total production in our country increases. They are boosting our economy,
Yes.
and hence the unemployment rate can decrease. Meaning that for me, I think that one is a no-go area. Now
Yes.
let's go to the personal income tax.
Yes.
If you can check the tax bracket in South Africa now, already is very much high.
Ridiculous.
So
honestly.
the tax system, people are paying a large amount in the form of a personal income tax.
Yes.
So now we are left with value added tax. We increased VAT from 15% to 16%.
Yes.
However, other people can argue that, remember, if you are increasing VAT, you are punishing the poor. I will give you example. When we are talking about VAT, remember this is a tax on the goods and services that we are buying every day.
Yes.
In stores.
Yes.
Meaning that even if there is a beggar along the road there by the robots, that person is begging for donations, you will give that particular person 5 rand so
Yes.
that the person can get something to eat.
Yes.
Then the government is going to tax that 5 rand as well.
What? No, guys,
that-
come on.
yes.
Ridiculous.
So, but now it's like our only option. I think the Minister of Finance tomorrow
Yes.
is going to temper or play around with a value added tax. We might have VAT increasing from 16% to 17% by 1%.